Are you afraid it's too late to start a YouTube channel? Do you feel like all the ideas for channels that you come up with have already been started? Well, in this video, we'll be talking to somebody who's overcome this challenge, Travis MCP. Travis is talking all things mobile phones, including phone tech, news, and reviews. Travis has created a great community of passionate tech gadget lovers. There isn't many niches as competitive as tech. So he's going to be talking about how he stands out, and we'll be sharing our tips for you and how to stand out on YouTube when starting a YouTube channel. All that and more coming up on the VI Show right now. That's right. Welcome to Video Influencers, where we're helping build your influence, income, impact with online videos. Sean and I started this channel to interview the people crushing it on YouTube. We're also the co-authors of YouTube Secrets. Get your copy at Audible or Amazon. I would suggest the audiobook because we just wrote the second edition, and once you buy it, you'll get the second edition just by refreshing. So with that being said, Travis, thank you so much for being on the show and in studio. It's kind of a rare experience these days.
I'm so excited to be somewhere with someone else. It's incredible, and man, thank you so much for having me, and I'm super excited to be here. I mean, this is not my first time here, but it's my first time here.
Yeah, it's so crazy because we've actually chatted a couple times, and I forgot that you've never actually been here yet. Right. I bought you that half and half Arnold Palmer iced tea.
My favorite.
Not sponsored, but yeah, we're going to get right into it. And for the people watching on Video Influencers, make sure you put all your questions down below that you have for Travis and myself. We're covering the topic of how to stand out in a competitive niche. We'll be doing the Q&As at the very end, and make sure you subscribe for more interviews just like this. All right, well, Travis, first off, really basic question. Is it too late to start a YouTube channel? Why or why not?
So funny thing you say that, because before I started my channel, I literally thought the answer to that was yes. As a viewer of YouTube, I remember thinking, any of these larger channels that are out there, if they had to do it over again, there's no way they could do it. Like, it's too late. There's just so much content being uploaded. But in that time, we've seen so many people who didn't exist in 2018 are now super big YouTubers. So no, it's not too late. While there are competitive niches, so to speak, the reality is there's so much out there. There's so much for everyone that I don't ever really call any other creators competitors. They're peers. Yeah. And having a community of peers is a great way to kind of get yourself known. But I'll say it is not too late. Believe it or not, it is absolutely not too late.
Yeah, well, obviously I completely agree. And I guess on that note, since it's not too late, I'm sure there's a lot of people that still feel like it's a huge challenge and it's a hurdle. Let's just start off with what you're doing. Tell the audience about how you were able to stand out in a competitive niche, and a little bit about your channel and why you've been able to gain attention in a place where, I mean, you got like some heavy hitters that almost have taken over the tech world, especially with mobile phones, right? Yeah. How have you been able to stand out and gain the attention when there's these behemoths that typically get phones early or get the, the first dibs on, the newest releases? What are you doing to help your channel get attention?
Yeah, I mean, when I first decided what my niche would be, which was tech, the reason I picked it is because it's something that I was passionate about anyway. I was always buying new tech. I was always interested in it. I was always watching videos about it. And then I was like, okay, if I want to do a channel about that, how do I bring different value than what's already out there? And if you look at tech reviews about anything, you'll see like beautiful B-roll and all this really great stuff. And I'm like, I'm not really good at that stuff anyway. Yeah. But I have a personality, I have a sense of humor that I think would gather an audience. And the thing is, there's not that many people doing tech that are doing it in a humorous way, in any sort of way. So I figured that was my way in, and to really lean into that heavily. And I really do. And I think that because there's not so many of those people in tech to choose from, when you have that extra little thing, that extra little spice, so to speak, you become one of maybe 3 or 4 choices versus one of 1,000 choices.
For sure. And I wanted to give a shout out to the players. I don't know if you still call them that. Yeah. That's your community.
Yeah.
And that's definitely one way to stand out is create a community of people that relate to you, people that get your vibe. I mean, there's obvious things, right? Whether it's your culture, background, religion, maybe it's a certain part of tech. One of my favorite examples is Ben Kaiser. He is, are you familiar with Ben, right? Ben is in the tech space as well, and he covers all things laptops, but specifically for people that are in the graphic design space. I use him as an example of somebody that can stand out even with a fairly small channel. And he gets probably the first dibs on all the laptops. Anything that you want to say on that note in terms of the community and the audience, because I know you have a lot to say in terms of how that's going to help you not only stand out, but gain more traffic and views on your videos.
Yeah, quite frankly, I obsess over my audience and my viewer. I really think about them a lot. I will turn down sponsor deals based on it. I will, think about specific type of content I want to do for them because they're always front of my mind. And, if you can really obsess over who your viewer is supposed to be, then your content comes naturally.
Yeah.
If you're thinking in your head that your viewer is a 30-year-old single mother that just likes to bake for her kids, then you know what type of content to make for that person, right? So rather than just shotgunning ideas, I like to really think, who is my viewer? How do I speak to them? And how do I get them to connect with me in that way? And, my community is kind of that way now, where we all kind of speak the same language. We all kind of say the same things. And I'm so blessed to have that. And I feel like a extra responsibility for those people. So I think it goes beyond what a lot of people think. They think, oh, I want to be famous, I want to have lots of people watch me. But the reality is, at that point, now you have a responsibility. Yeah. So as long as you're kind of, in my mind, of like obsessing over what kind of things that those people would like, and then also how to protect your viewership, I think you'll always be successful. And by the way, micro-influencers are huge now. Yeah. They quote micro-influencers. I know creators that have less than like 7,000, 8,000 subscribers that are getting different brand deals and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, they're getting reached out by big companies. They see the value. Yeah.
Well, ironically, I think everybody was a micro influencer
of course.
at one point, and the principles don't change. Even my wife, who is probably one of the most influential female mothers in the lifestyle family vlogging space, started off being just the girl next door. I'm not a professional makeup artist, but I love all things makeup and beauty. She was just sharing her tips, very ironically, very like quick tips. One's for the people that have a job, going to school, they don't have all day to get all done up. And now being a mom, she has even less time. So when she thinks about her makeup branding, not that she's not doing makeup videos anymore, but when her makeup branding, she would talk about it in a way a mom could relate. Right. And so whether you're just starting out as a micro influencer, or even when you're mega influential, always keeping that audience in mind. Now, I'm curious, what route do you take? Because you hear different strategies. Some people literally have an avatar and they'll name that avatar in this person. Are you thinking of the individual, or do you think more of the community? And like, what is it? Because, I guess one of the challenges or potential dangers is if you go too specific, it's too small. Right. If you go too broad, you might not be specific enough. How do you find that balance point when you're considering who it is you're talking to and what it is you want to create, so that you both are specific and direct about what you're saying, but also broad enough so you gain, more traffic?
Yeah, that's an incredible question. And I think it's important to understand an individual, but then also just outside of that individual. I like to talk about your niche and just outside of your niche. And no matter what niche you're in, the people just outside of your niche is always larger. So no matter if you're in vlogging or cameras or whatever, the people that are just outside of it, that don't watch it every day, there's a larger number of those people. But the interesting thing is there's a percentage there that would be really interested in it that just aren't aware of it yet. Yeah. Yes. And those are the people you need to kind of really think about. So you get your core audience, you kind of understand what they like, you put out a video, it's going to do okay, right? But what about those people just outside that would love to binge this stuff, but they're not aware of it? Like, I'll tell you the other day, and YouTube, the algorithm is great for this. Something on your homepage just pops up and you're like, what is this thing? I would never watch this. You click it, and 3 hours later, you've watched like 27 videos of
binge watching their stuff, yeah.
YouTube knows that. YouTube knows that because of watch history and a bunch of other things we can nerd out about. But that is where like the viral stuff comes from, when you start to think about people's general interests. So if you know that, like, let's say you have a photography channel, and you're basically going after a professional photographer. There are people just outside of that to enlarge in your group. You don't have to go for the person who has $5,000 camera equipment everywhere, right? You could also go to the beginning photographer who one day wants to be there, be a part of their journey. So think about not just maybe that professional photographer, but the intermediate, maybe the beginner, and then maybe the person that just likes to go on vacation and take nice pictures. Like those people all have a similar interest, and you can talk to all of them at the same time.
Yeah, like it's you know, I wish we could do this like the diagram of two circles, right? And there's kind of an overlap of where the beginners kind of overlap with the professionals, and always considering that overlap. But at the end of the day, I would definitely say you have to understand who you're talking to, because the video is speaking to one person. You know, we don't watch these as audiences in a theater. We're watching it because we have our individual needs. And this is why more and more, even the bigger creators, they're successful, like Mr. Beast. He's thinking about that one person and how they will react to the video versus just thinking of it like an audience, right? But let's get right into the nitty gritty. How does that influence the video idea, the title, the thumbnail? How do you consider who you're talking to when you want to stand out, and how do you apply it to the video creation, YouTube optimization process? Yeah,
so one of the things I do also during my course of my day is I'm a YouTube coach, so I help you know, channels kind of optimize their channels, and this is something that we talk about for the vast majority of the calls that I do. It's title, thumbnail, marketing of the video. You know, we'll find videos like some of my larger creators who have like millions of subscribers. A change of a word can mean the difference between 700,000 views or 1.5 million views. Like, it's just a couple of word difference, right? So I'm always obsessed over these little things about, you know, what's that word or what's that phrase or what's that thumbnail that's going to make someone click above everything else that's on their homepage, right? Because that's the thing. And again, you have to get into their mind space. And one of the things I did recently with one of my larger creators, they had a car video that was about DIY and like speakers and how loud they are, right? And I looked at it and I go, as someone who isn't a car fan, so to speak, but someone who might be interested in this topic, I said, what is the point of this video? They told me, well, you know, they're buying an aftermarket speaker and trying it out and testing it. I go, well, why don't you say, is upgrading your speakers worth it? They changed the title immediately. There's a huge difference in views, and now it's well over almost 2 million views. And the reason why is because you're talking to a larger group of people. If you're keeping it too niche and you're thinking about DIY, first we have to know what DIY means. And then they had like the volume, like how many amps it was, and that's too much for most people. However, most people understand it. If I upgrade my speakers, is it worth it? Like, they understand that concept. So once you bring it to, it's the same video, literally just change the title and thumbnail, and all of a sudden it's a different video performance-wise. So, you know, I think that titles really have to speak to the person. You have to think about the sensibilities of the person, and you have to think about what they are also interested in general. And if you are speaking over them or under them, you're going to miss them.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you can bring up our thumbnails for today's show mutually, both the one that we had originally and then maybe the latest one, but these little nuances in terms of wording is important. I love that you brought up one of the mistakes that are most commonly made that people don't know they're making, which is using verbiage that people don't understand, right? See, that common sense is really important. This is one reason I love Daryl Eves, because he understands pop culture, he understands what people are into, and you have to really have that understanding to be able to even do simple things like titles. For us, it's like a thumbnail. We try not to use the same phrase in our thumbnail that we would in the title. So here was the original thumbnail, right? Is it too late? I always ask people, like, can you like get your head around what this video is just from the thumbnail? Well, where it was, is it too late to do what? I think some people could assume this. Okay, we go to the second one, right? What, I don't know. There you go. Is it too late to start?
There you go.
Like little things like that. By the way, the title of this video, I don't totally even forgot what it was. Let me go see what the title is. How to stand out in a competitive niche on YouTube. See, those two aspects are playing against each other because I was thinking about the person on the other side. Here on Video Influencers, we're grateful for all the full-time creators, the influencers that watch us, but we do have a lot of beginners. And just like you in 2018, they're thinking, is it too late to start? And that's why they're always on the fence. And then we give them the answer, how to stand out in a competitive niche on YouTube. Well, it's not really the answer. Point is, I'm thinking about the person.
Yes.
When I'm creating a thumbnail and title. Anything else that you're doing in terms of your video ideas as well?
Yeah, I mean, so there's some advanced techniques that I try not to confuse newer content creators with, but if you're like an established creator, one thing you can do is understanding that YouTube shows your videos for the first 24 to 48 hours for people who've watched your channel before and watched videos before and subscribers. So you can have a title and thumbnail for them that triggers them specifically, and then you can swap after that for people who don't know you, because that's who's going to see your videos after 48 hours, you know? So you can do that. That's kind of a higher end strategy. If you're a newer creator and you're just trying to get yourself kind of known, there's an interesting thing about I versus you. And this is something that I've really been paying really close attention to. When you're a micro-influencer, more times than not, unless you in some way have already established that you are an expert in something, you should be using the words you in your titles rather than I, because here's why. Like, your wife can get away with saying how I started a million subscriber YouTube channel. People would be interested.
Yes.
Because she's established.
Yes.
Now me, if I go, you know, how I made the world's greatest cake, no one knows who I am. They're not going to believe that, right? But if I say how you can make the world's greatest cake, that's a much more clickable video.
Yeah.
So depending on where you are, you can either say I or you. And those things can mean the difference between like a 3% click-through rate and like an 8 or 10% click-through rate.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Just those words.
Yeah, people are selfish. They want to know what's in it for me,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And that's the thing. When you don't have the clout, when you don't have the authority, you have to kind of give. And this is the whole point of social media and YouTube 101. You have to give before you receive,
100%.
right? And so any kind of titles like that. Because this is what's interesting. Subscribers, do they matter anymore? And I actually say yes, they matter, but they're not necessarily going to get you the views you want, right? They matter because, like, for example, this channel, we're definitely not getting as many views as we have subscribers, but there is something to be said about, like, when people look at my channel and say, okay, they've already done their thing, right? So they already have a certain level of authority. Now, you don't want to just completely lean on the fact that you have subscribers. You still want to bring in the heat. But versus a 0 subscriber channel, they could be like, I know this, I know that, and they just look like a wannabe. Versus, like you said, one little small switch up, and it goes from being like, I'm an expert versus this is what you can do. And that, again, playing into the psychology. So thank you so much. So, hey, if you guys are getting value, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe for more interviews just like this. We're always talking to people that are crushing it on YouTube and social media. Travis is in studio. We'll put the links to his channel all down below. But we're going to get into Q&A very, very soon. I just got a couple more questions. Yeah, what are the tips that you have for competing in a flooded niche? So we're going to start off with new channels. If you're just starting off, what's like the first two to three things you need to do as a like content creator to stand out and compete in a competitive niche?
So there's a couple of things, and a lot of the things that I'll say are things that people won't do because it's work. Yeah. And I just want to start off by saying YouTube is one of the hardest social medias to grow on right now. Period. End of story. Like Facebook, you can kind of buy your way there. TikTok, you can get lucky. Instagram, you can hashtag your way there. YouTube, you just got to be good. Yes. I mean, there's a little bit of luck sometimes, but for the most part, you just got to be good. So you need to stack the deck in your favor. I'm all about stacking the deck. Think about when you figure out something that's passionate to you, which is the #1 thing. Like, you have to do something you're passionate about because people can see it through the lens. They can tell if you care or not, right? Once you figure that out, you've got to look at what other people are doing and find if there's something missing. Is there something missing between what everyone's doing? I'll give you an example. There's a coaching client of mine that looked at Bitcoin, and there was a bunch of Bitcoin channels that were blown up earlier this year. And she said, you know, the one thing that I noticed is that they would pontificate for so long and not really get to the point, not really speak to the average person. So he goes, I decided to do that. And in a month, got almost 30,000 subscribers, like right off the bat, because she decided to do the research and then figure out what was missing and then fill that gap. Yes. And really, that's all you need to do. You put it in your own words, be authentic, be genuine, do your research, especially if it's educational, but just look for those holes, fill them, and be yourself. Yeah. That's a good point too. Watching like a niche that you're into, so gaming would be a great example. Very competitive, and you know, maybe there's a game that you love, but there's not a lot of creators there, and so that's your into the gaming space. You don't have to be just that person forever. There's a lot of channels. I mean, of course, we'll talk about PewDiePie. He started
I believe, actually, I don't even know what game he started in, but I know like Minecraft for a while was a big thing, but he doesn't do as much Minecraft, right? And the point of niching down or serving a specific need or problem or question people have or filling a gap is that there's people looking for that content and you're going to be that person. And then from there you can grow. Any other tips or anything else you'd want to add to that?
I think the one thing, like I said, and this is something that is easier said than done and easier to understand listening to me say it rather than when you're in the heat, is that this is hard. I can't say this enough. It is not, you might see people like, oh, my videos are going to be better than theirs. And maybe they are, but typically you're seeing the tip of the iceberg. You didn't see all the work they put in years, maybe in advance to get to that point. So don't become discouraged if it takes you a while. I mean, I have creators that it took them 2 or 3 years before they caught on. I have creators that got lucky in the first couple of months, but there's no guarantee, there's no magical pill that says you're going to have success in this amount of time. Don't put your stake in that. Find something you're passionate about that you would do for free forever, and then you will find success. It's just a matter of sticking to it and never like second guess your passion. I mean, you always just take criticism and really kind of, take it to heart and try to fix things that need to be fixed. But ultimately, I see a lot of people getting discouraged because their expectations are, if my video feels better than what I saw, I should get more views. And that's just not the way it works. So just really stick with it. Watch this channel. I've learned something by this channel. I mean, come on, what are we doing? What are we doing? I watched this channel when I first started. So.
Well, it's interesting. On that note, it leads to my second question on the idea of like what to do to stand out. Yeah, it is a lot of work, and there's a lot of creators who have worked really hard, built these channels, and have these audiences, and for whatever reason, they're not standing out anymore. So this is usually we just go for the beginners. But what about the seasoned creator? How do they stand out if their niche has become flooded? For example, when I started my food channel, there wasn't that many creators. And I don't want to say it was easy for me to get noticed, but it was definitely easier. I could literally just do whatever I wanted. I could do food challenges. I could do recipes. I could literally just talk about like a topic. It was like a variety show. Now it seems that there's just so many people. And to be frank, creating way better food recipe videos, right? Like their whole life is dedicated to that. They're basically doing what Food Network is doing on YouTube by themselves at home. What's your suggestions or tips for a seasoned creator when they need to maybe like reconfigure or reformat their channel?
Yeah, what I normally do for channels that are established is we look at what their existing audience is actually kind of connecting with in the moment, right? Inevitably, the audience that you start off with is shed off at some point, especially if you've been around for a couple of years. It's just natural. Either their interests have changed, or they've passed away, or they've left, or whatever. They're on TikTok now, whatever the case may be. But you have a core group of people now that are watching. You want to know what their interests are. And then, again, that one half step out. Who are the next connection beyond that? So if you used to start out with savory foods, but now for whatever reason all the sweet foods are working, let's take a look at that, and let's take one half step out, and let's look at what other channels on YouTube are doing well in those particular niches, those particular kind of recipes. I know forever, at least for, I think it's going to be crazy for a while longer now, is street foods really does very, very well, right? But a lot of the reasons that street foods do so well, especially the ones in Asian countries, because it's so interesting, so different.
Yes.
Like it's visually like, what is going on? Is that a crab? Is it moving? Is it upside down? Like, what is it, right? That will never go away. We'll always be interested in that sort of stuff. So if you can look for those evergreen ideas, things that will always kind of delight and kind of surprise viewers, and then try to mix it in with your current content, you'll never run out of ideas. I think the biggest thing, though, is to really look at what's been performing over the last 20 to 90 days. Figure out what that next half step out is, and then really start to dig into that.
And just like the new creator, you don't have to do that forever. It's just right now, during this season, I always go back to even to 6 months. So, you and I, both fans of vidIQ, right?
Yeah, of course.
vidIQ is a tool that you can download on Chrome, and you can use it to see what is performing best in the last 6 months. And that's what I do for channels that I'm auditing or I'm supporting or I'm helping. I'm like, okay, let's see what people are really paying attention to. What gets like the best velocity of views right away. That's the audience and the algorithm telling you what is working. And so this is why you want to double down, triple down. And I think as seasoned creators, we almost maybe have the audacity to think, oh, we can put out anything. One thing I love about YouTube, and I think I will kind of want to end it here before Q&A, what I love about YouTube is they actually don't care how many subscribers you have. They really could care less of how long you've been on, what's your authority, you know, what you've done for the community or your subscribers, how many videos, right? Like how many times it just sounds so pretentious. Like, I've been dedicating my whole life to this, and this has been my business, and then you guys change up the algorithm. Well, that's actually a good thing, because it levels the playing field, and honestly, it gets the best content to the people. And that's all the algorithm is doing. They care about who's keeping people on the platform. I'll go even a step further to give YouTube credit. I've talked to them about this, and I've seen it applied. They don't want to just give you like TikTok like addictive stuff. They want to give you satisfaction, and that can mean different things to different people. So it's not just about the entertainment. It's about like, okay, if you're trying to learn a new skill, we want to make sure that you learn that skill by getting all the right videos. If you're trying to maybe get away from that addictive content, and there's signals showing like you don't want as much negative stuff, you want more positive stuff, we're going to keep showing you. Have you ever seen at the end of a video says, are you satisfied with this video? That, I believe, I've never made the correlation like formally with them, but I believe that's part of their goal to do that. What do you think about that and YouTube in general, and the idea that it's actually a very fair platform, and like you said, if you're good and you're putting out content people want to watch, you're going to succeed in this game?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, there are good videos on YouTube that don't get a lot of views. I mean, that you just can't deny it. But then again, with over 500 hours uploaded every minute, that's just bound to happen, right? And we're in a time right now where it's summerish time. People are outside, so not as many people are watching YouTube at this moment. So even more of those videos are going unwatched. However, over time, they tend to get watched because that's what YouTube wants. It's not, they're not trying to suppress or keep you down, or they don't know who you are. Let's be honest. They don't know who you are. They just want good content to keep people on the platform. And if you have that content, they will absolutely show it to the people that want to watch it. But YouTube has said this multiple times. They don't find viewers for videos. They find videos for viewers. And that's an important understanding. Like they think of the viewer first, which is what you should do, and what they want to watch. And if you can give them that type of content, you will do well.
And so I think wrapping this up and summarizing, I think you and I both agree, one of the best ways to stand out in a competitive niche is to go back to basics and think about the individual, right? Because you want to create that video that the algorithm is going to serve to that person. And it's not about, even as a bigger creator, it's not about me. It's about you. If you do that every step of the way, from the idea you're going to create to the titling and the thumbnail, to literally optimizing video around all of that, you will succeed in time. And the algorithm, so what I believe is those good videos, they will eventually get found out. You know, I always use, I mean, it's kind of extreme and this would never happen, but say Marvel decided to do like Avengers 5 or whatever, and they uploaded it on the No Name channel. It will get found, 100%. Right? Especially, I mean, you could just title it Avengers 5 or whatever, and legit, like, not only will it get found, it will get a lot of views. I think as many views, it might not happen as quick, because the algorithm's like, hey, this random video, when we serve in from these people that are into Marvel, they watch the whole thing. 100%. And this is what's happening. People even, you know, think like, well, yeah, like for whatever reason, I get like this many views every single video. I don't even have an audience. That's the algorithm testing it out. And if those 100 people they serve it to, most of them watch it and watch a lot of it, they'll serve it to 200 more people, then 2,000 people. And that's why content. Okay, I've been yapping 100%. Away. What's your last thoughts for people before we go into Q&A?
Just that YouTube is a constantly evolving game, because people's interests constantly evolve. So what works today may not work tomorrow, vice versa. What works tomorrow may not work today, and you know, all these things. You have to pay attention to your niche, what's new and exciting, and keep up with it. If you don't keep up with the times, you will get left behind.
And it doesn't matter if you got a big audience or 0 subscribers.
That's right.
All right, so we're going to move on to Q&A, but before that, I just want to invite a whole bunch of people up here. Chris, I'm going to make you a moderator, so feel free to bring up some people to ask questions. Put your questions in the chat area if you're watching on Video Influencers. We like to do a segment called overrated, underrated. And I got some fun ones for you. So if you're just chiming in, Travis is a mobile phone expert, and I have some fun ones for you. Overrated, underrated, iPhone.
Oof, that's a loaded question. Man, that's a tough one because we'll say overrated, even though I have one and I love them, and I'll say overrated for a vast majority of reasons. Okay.
Okay.
That was hard.
And by the way, go ahead and you can go into depth, but let's go to the next one. Google Pixel.
Oh yeah. Well, right now, with the new one coming out, it'll be it's underrated right now. It could very well be an amazing piece of hardware coming up.
Yeah. I personally am iPhone fan.
Yep,
I'm
same.
just like simple. It's like that's what kind of connects to everything.
Same.
But with Google Pixel, I think if you're in the Google world, it just
my
makes sense to me. You know,
it's insane.
Okay, now switching gears to overrated, underrated YouTube Shorts.
So
And why?
Is there just rated? Because
there is like properly rated.
I think the reality is it's not underrated because so many people know about it, and I don't want to say it's overrated. It's overrated for people who think that it's a magical pill, because it's not. However, it is a tool that works. So I don't want to say overrated. I don't want to say underrated. I think it's
properly rated.
Properly. That's a cheesy way out. But yeah.
Oh no, it's all good. No, I personally think it's completely underrated, but I love to hear from other creators. You know, not everybody's using it too.
No,
so if you're not using, you might not have a lot of context. Donuts.
Underrated. I think never.
I'm asking because we have some donuts.
This is one of the biggest donuts I've ever had in my life. It's so good. Yeah, no, definitely underrated. You can never overrate donuts.
Yeah. Seattle.
Underrated by far.
Why?
But I mean, there's so much cool stuff here. Are you kidding me? Like, it's the perfect place. Not only is there technology here if you're into tech, but if you want to go water skiing in the morning and then snow skiing at night, you literally can do that here. It's one of the most incredible places I've ever lived.
Last couple, and then we're going to get to Q&A. Using your mobile device for creating YouTube videos, underrated or overrated?
Underrated by far.
And why?
So many creators have been using, Mr. Beast, I think, said he uses iPhone 6 for his first 100,000 subscribers or something like that. And I have some friends that have used their phones too. I think people think when they see YouTube videos that they see these big red cameras and stuff, and they have to do that. On almost every single one of my B-roll shots now in my videos, I use my iPhone because the quality is so good. The quality on smartphones right now is so good that you don't need a $3,000 camera anymore. So yeah, totally underrated. And I think people think that it's bad, and it's not. It's totally not.
I mean, the cameras are amazing. I use it for my vlogging. I should like have a clip to show people, but the image stabilization
incredible
on my iPhone is ridiculous, to the point where I used to use a Canon G7X Mark II, and now my wife is totally okay me using my iPhone for our vlogs. Okay, we're not using it for the whole entire vlog, but like when I'm out and about and I forgot the camera or I want to kind of go lighter, is totally doable.
It's perfect.
And it wasn't like that like 5 years ago, but now I would say this: if I was starting with a budget of 0 and at 0 subscribers, if I had a phone, I would totally use that, and I wouldn't even think twice about it. It's 100%. The lighting and the audio. That's what 100%. You might want to add to it.
Yep.
And then last one, kind of an interesting one, vertical video.
So if Shelly was here, she would say, because she has that vertical video channel. I don't like vertical video. I'll be honest. I personally don't
overrated?
Like it. I consider it overrated personally. I understand the reason behind it. I just don't like it.
A good friend of ours, I'm sure you know Andrew, right? Andrew Edwards.
That's my buddy Mike.
He years ago told me that there is TVs that go vertical now. And that is amazing to me. I don't know if that'll ever catch on, but what has caught on is people are watching more vertical video on their phone, including myself, than ever before. And we're not just talking about TikTok now with YouTube Shorts. So for me, I actually think it's underrated, but of course I'm super biased because I love YouTube Shorts or whatever. It'll just be interesting to see, because could you ever imagine watching, going back to Marvel?
Oh my gosh,
and
no,
Avengers in a vertical format?
I would quit.
Exactly, right? I don't know, but does that mean we're just old? Because
No,
I wonder,
maybe.
this is where I'm just curious to see if one day there will be like a
movie shot like that.
movie shot like that.
Interesting.
For those people that don't want to turn their phone.
That is really compelling, because so much content is watched on mobile. That's actually a compelling question.
So anyways, my advice is just do whatever you can, whatever you're comfortable with, that gets you views. Okay.
Yeah.
If it gets you views, and that's why even though I'm not a fan of TikTok, I'm not on there, you can't deny it's gaining
100%.
attention. And this is why YouTube came out with YouTube Shorts, and why short form creators are getting so much attention and opportunity.
Yeah.